So,
in your own time.
In my own time. Okay, cool. Okay, so we're going to be doing some cyanotype process today. It's a strong look, right? Isn't it? The reason I put these on is because actually the chemical's quite watery. So I have it in here. The two chemicals that we use, there we go, specifically because it's a photography show, we want to make sure they're all labelled up. We have ferric ammonium citrate, which would be your solution A, and solution B would be your potassium ferrocyanide, okay? So these are the two liquids that we mix together in a 50-50 ratio, and that creates this. There we go. So what I tend to do is I tend to use quite a heavyweight watercolour paper, sort of like a 300 milligram, and what we'll do is we'll coat it with this particular solution, then we place objects on top of it, and then it goes under the UV lamp. Okay, so our lamp over here is Fred, my mini sun, because obviously we're indoors, so in order to expose to UV light we have to use a UV lamp. But I love using the sun as well. I think it's really magical because all you need is sunshine and water to make this process happen, really. Okay, so I'm going to get my sponge brush. So you can use different kinds of brushes. This one's obviously a sponge brush, and as you can see it's quite a watery liquid, so we want to make sure that we don't use too much, otherwise it sort of pools. Okay, so if I just coat it on, I'll do one that's sort of like really even. Using the sponge brush helps with that. You can also use a glass rod where you would take like a pipette of the liquid, you would basically drip it along, and then you'd use a glass rod to push it, and that will give you a really nice even coating. So you can use that, or you can use a brush like this, or you can use like a normal brush, like a painted brush. You can see the different kind of effects you get as well. So I quite like the messy effects. I quite like to see brush strokes. So you can see that I've got a little bit left on there. I'll just take a tiny little bit more, and we'll see if I can get just a couple of slightly drier brush strokes. Okay, so wherever there's a chemical will eventually be blue, and wherever there's paper will eventually be white, okay? So when I put an object on top of it, that part will be blocked from the UV light, and we end up with an impression, or a photogram, we call it as well, okay? So I've used the chemical, I'll pop that away. There we go. Popped in under here, and I can take these off now. Hooray! Hi guys. The reason obviously we don't want to end up with it in our eyes or on our skin. On our skin, because we go blue, we'd look a bit like a Smurf for a while, because it works on anything porous. So obviously our skin is porous as well. Paper's porous, fabric's porous, so those are all really cool things you can use the cyanotype process on. So once we've got this here, we just need to wait for it to dry. I'll give it a little, like birthday candles on the cake. Do you want to add a little bit of magic? Thank you. Okay, there we go. You did a brilliant job. It's nearly dry. Fabulous. Once we've got our paper coated, then we choose some objects to put on it. Now these ones, here's one as I made earlier, of course. Okay, and we're going to bring these over and show you what will happen. Okay, so these have had objects lay on top of them, and these have been under the lamp for about 12 minutes. This particular lamp at this particular wattage takes about 12 minutes. And then when I take the objects off, you can see you're left with the impression, okay? So what you're looking for is actually it to go this sort of like grey-brown kind of colour. So we start off with this bright neon yellow, and you can see sort of underneath, we're left with that sort of neon yellow. And then if I move them on here, you can see even more of that effect. There we go, okay? So at the moment, this isn't fixed. If I put this back under the lamp, it would eventually just disappear. But what I need to do to fix it is basically wash it in water, okay? So I'm going to put these to one side, and I'll show you how to fix those in a moment. But first we're going to make some new ones and put them under the lamp. Okay, sir, would you like to choose a little object for me? Don't touch these for me, but you can choose one of these if you like.
Ooh, I think that one is on the
this
top
one?
there, yeah.
Okay, all right, so I'm going to use this one. Would you like the messy side or the even coated? Messy side, okay. Maybe across the middle? Okay, there we go. So we can lay that there. How about yourself? Would you like to choose one? We've got these.
I'd go right across diagonally.
Diagonally across there, okay. So obviously if we've got something that's got a bit more height, like this one, you end up with more of a sort of dreamy effect. So you can see it's a bit more like a shadow as opposed to a really sort of defined outline. So if you've got something that's really sort of defined like that, you'll end up with a sharp edge. But you can give it a little bit more of a dreamy feel using that. So we'll put that one across here. Actually, might have to go that way up. Here we go. Should we grab you? Do you want to choose maybe one of either of those? This one? Okay. And which one would you like to put it on? This one? Okay, so we'll put this one here. So if I pop that just there, you can have it half off, half on. Basically, wherever you put the object will end up white underneath, okay? So it can cover different elements of it. And like any good artist, you have to sign your work. So there we go. So these I printed out on acetate. So like these images here, I created these as a part of an artist commission, and I took the original architectural drawings from the building, and I shot the building itself on 35mm and medium format analog photography using my old cameras. Then I kind of combined it all together with some of these kinds of samples, created a digital negative. So you can use original negatives that you've shot in a film camera, or you can use what we call a digital negative and create that. So I made that as a composite image and basically put that together. And then using the same process, I coated onto a larger piece of paper that chemical, lay that over the top, and then through the process of exposing it under a UV lamp, actually this one was out in the sun, it took me about an hour, and then you end up with something like this. It's pretty lovely. So it's a very simple process, it's just sunshine and water and the chemical reaction. So I'm going to sign it using my little piece of acetate. And you might be able to see on Anna's work over here. So Anna Atkins, obviously we're celebrating her over this weekend specifically because it was her 220th birthday on Saturday. And Anna Atkins was the first, pretty much, sometimes known as the first female photographer. She never used a camera though, she used light. So drawing with light in terms of the word photography. I think we can let her get away with that, yeah. She was the first person to create a photographic book though. So she took all of these images, and you can see at the bottom we've got some text where she's written on greaseproof paper and lay it on in a very similar fashion. Okay, so we'll lay this on here. That way, there we go. Because it has to be over the chemical, obviously, otherwise we wouldn't see it. Once we've got those, we can transfer them under the lamp. Okay, so I'll do this now. All right, so put these ones under here. There you go. Okay, this one will go under as well. There we go. Okay, so those are going. What I sometimes do is perhaps use a piece of glass to weight it down, but obviously as we've got like a 3D, more of a 3D frond, I don't want to squash it too much, so we'll leave it like that. But that means that now the ones that we made before that have exposed, I can wash those. You can see that? Sound good? Want to see the magic? Yeah, okay, right. So, there we go. Okay. It literally is a bit like a magic trick, this, isn't it? Okay, so this is a tray of water, just water, normal water. It's a little bit yellow because I've already rinsed a few, fixed a few. Okay, and then what we do is we take these and we put it into the water. There we go. You see it change? Magic. There we go. And that is how, and you can see other bits start to appear that we didn't notice were there. So it's literally just water, because the chemical reaction has already taken place, yeah? So because I run Little Vintage Photography and I create little kits, so you're able to do that. I coat the paper and it means that you basically just lay your object on top of it, leave it out in the sunshine. If it's direct sunshine, it's about 5 to 10 minutes to expose. And what you're looking for is a sort of like grey-brown colour. Okay, once it's got to that, then it's okay and it's fully exposed, and you can just rinse it in water. So I have my little kits over there, or little individual samples, so you can try it yourself. And I'll put this one in. Ready? A bit more magic. You see there's some these bits here. Tilt it around. There we go. So this is a 170-year-old process. So Anna made these ones 170 years ago, and I made these ones yesterday. So yeah. There we go. And can you see, this is the one that was that little bit higher. Yeah, when we used before. So you see what I mean about it being like a dreamy effect? really defined edges because they're very close contact, and then something with a little bit more of a dreamy effect. So these ones under here, can you see I've already changed colour?
Yeah.
Actually. So they were a bright neon yellow, weren't they, to start with? And then once they're like this, they're fully fixed. So it's just washed off the residual chemical. So all I do is put this into a bottle, and that just goes to be disposed of, like you might with, you know, paint or something. Okay. But yeah, basically these are now clean, fixed prints that hopefully should last another 170 years. And they're all completely unique. So there we go. I'm Rachel, by the way. I didn't say that, did I? Hi, I'm Rachel. So there we go. And what we can do is, because we don't have a hairdryer, I'll just get some kitchen roll and dry them off using that one. So you mix the two chemicals together, 50-50 ratio. You coat the paper, which is obviously what I've sort of pre-done in these. You lay an object over the top. It can be an object, or it can be a negative or a digital negative. You expose it to UV light, either via the sun outside. You might have to run around to keep patch, because we keep moving as well, is the other thing. Or you can get UV lamps and things as well. There we go. Here you go. Can you see? See? They're cool. And you can see with the texture on that, it's a very different look to something quite clean. Yeah, there we go. So there we go. Those are our cyanotype prints. Woo. And they'll go up into the ongoing exhibition here, so everybody can enjoy it, which will be nice. Yeah. Try those off. Just gonna get a peg. All right, where shall I put it? Down there? Yeah. Okay. Okay. There we go, guys. And I'll get another one. Okay. And fill in down here? Yeah. Okay, there we go. All right. There you go. Is there any questions? Enjoy that. Nope, that's it. That is the fix. That's the fix process. Just wash it off. Absolutely. So the chemical that's on there, if you take it out from under the daylight, under the UV too soon, and then wash it, it will just wash off completely. So this one was a bit of a mistake. So I'd done that as a test under the lamp, but what had happened was when I was adjusting the one next to it, I touched one of the leaves, and I thought I'm not going to be able to realign it again, so I'll just take it out, that's fine. But you can see that it's not quite the right colour. That these are more like that kind of like grey brown. Once it gets to that, it means it's totally fine. You can wash it and then it will fix. Yeah. So you want to make sure it gets to the grey brown colour. But you can use all sorts of things. So these are obviously some 35mm negatives. These I took as architectural drawings. So this is part of an art commission that I did. This is a building, a library actually in Birkenhead. And I took some of their original architectural drawings, which is originally called blueprints. I don't know if you've heard of the term blueprints. This is why they're called blueprints, because they came out blue. We use a cyanotype process, a bit like an old photocopier. So you have one drawing, and you would lay that on top of this chemical on paper. You can make as many copies as you like. So all of your builders knew exactly what they were building, rather than him having to draw, or her having to draw all of these copies. You could do as many as you liked. So I took some of theirs originally, made my own blueprint from those, took some samples from the public workshop that I'd done, added those together, overlaid it, some of my original texture shots that I'd taken on film, like these, and some writing and text. Created this just on acetate, so it's like a digital negative printed out. So I've done it as a composite image, printed it out onto acetate. And then again, very simple, same process, coated the paper, lay that on top of it, exposed it for about an hour, and then I've got this. Okay. Pretty clever.